Jesus' denunciation of Peter in today's gospel has always struck me as rather harsh. Jesus had just talked at length about having to suffer and die. And Peter, being the concerned friend and follower that he was, tries to offer consolation and hope. Peter says the human thing: God forbid that you suffer all of that. Underlying this is the idea that bad things should only happen to bad people, and only good things should happen to good people. But this is not how our world works. Innocent people, infants and children, the poor and the peacemakers, they suffer because of the choices, hatred, and indifference of the wealthy, the powerful, and the cruel. Jesus, as Peter, in just a few sentences prior, proclaimed, is the Messiah, the Anointed One, the Son of God. He had the power to choose not to suffer violence at the hands of others. He could have avoided the cross if he chose. He could have lived a quiet and unassuming life and not gotten himself into any trouble. He could have led a revolution and claimed worldly power. He could have cast aside the chains with which he was bound, or climbed down from the cross and lived as one of the pagan gods on earth. But that is not who Jesus is. That is not who God is. Jesus did not come to earth to exploit his power for his own good and to live a life of ease. He came to be human, to dwell among humanity on this good but imperfect earth, to live a human life and to suffer a human death. And in so doing, Jesus came to show us what it means to truly be human and to live a good life. We are called to follow after Jesus, to live a life that is a reflection of his. We are called to accept what ills come our way in this imperfect world and to nonetheless love one another as ourselves, to be servants to one another, to take up our cross and follow. And we are called to accept that there will be times that following God, putting the welfare of others before oneself, will mean suffering and even death. Yesterday was September 11th, 2021. And in amongst the stories of hate from those 19 men who shattered so many lives 20 years ago, and the stories of sheer chance for those who were running late that morning and escaped with their lives, and those who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time and lost theirs. There were also stories of people of all religions and no religion at all who chose to follow Jesus in this way. There were those who ushered others into the elevators and stayed behind in the Twin Towers, waiting for an elevator that would never return. There were those who were passengers on Flight 93 who made sure that it went down in Shanksville in a field rather than allowing it to crash into the Capitol. There were those who worked to put out the smoldering fires at Ground Zero and clean up the site, and who now suffer from cancers, lung diseases, rashes, and other long-term illnesses. There were those who chose to serve in the armed forces, trying to keep the peace and to protect others. And there were countless others whose lives were forever changed that morning, who upon seeing how much evil humanity can bring into the world, chose to bring good into the world through service to God, humanity, and all of creation. All of these individuals serve to remind us of who we are called to be, and who we can be if we allow ourselves to see in one another the image of God. They also remind us that when we disrespect, when we injure, when we fear, when we distrust, when we hate one another, we are disrespecting injuring, fearing, distrusting, and hating the image of God. The legacy of love that they all have built for us is dishonored when we look with suspicion on people who are different from us, whether because they wear different clothes, or because their skin is a different color, or because they speak another language, or because they worship God differently. And that is the point that James makes in today's second reading. We cannot pick and choose who we love and who we hate. All are created in the image of God. And we must treat all with the same respect that being made in the image of God deserves. We must love all others, even those who hate us. And that is what it truly means to take up your cross and follow. Amen.